My friends, I want to ask you something. When you look at your bank account, do you feel a sense of tightness inside? Or do you close your phone saying, okay, things are going well? As someone who experienced that tightness for years, I now manage million-dollar portfolios and have partnered in dozens of ventures. But let me tell you the biggest secret. Everything started with a much smaller number. The magic threshold of financial freedom is not $1 million. It's not even a six-figure number. That number is $20,000. And most financial experts won't tell you this because such a simple truth makes it harder for them to charge complex consulting fees. I'm Owen, someone who thinks deeply about entrepreneurship and financial freedom. And today I will sincerely explain this turning point that will fundamentally change your relationship with money. Don't forget to subscribe, my brothers and sisters, because this conversation is truly important. Now, what comes to mind when you think about building wealth? Perhaps you imagine the child of a wealthy family or someone who saved penny by penny for years. But the truth is that wealth accumulation doesn't work the way most people think, my friends. There are actually financial thresholds that act like invisible barriers, and when you cross these thresholds, the rules of the game change completely. $20,000 is the first major threshold that separates those who will accumulate serious wealth in the future from those who will live paycheck to paycheck all their lives. And the craziest part is this: the vast majority of people are not even aware of the existence of this threshold. Think of it this way, my friends. Imagine you're trying to push a heavy rock up to the top of a hill. Starting is the hardest part. You're out of breath, sweating, making little progress, and asking yourself, is this even possible? But when you gain enough momentum, something magical happens. The rock accelerates, and when you reach the top, it almost rolls to the other side on its own. $20,000 is the moment your financial rock finally reaches that peak. Before this point, you feel like you're pushing uphill against gravity. After this point, gravity starts working for you. But here's the truly interesting part, my friends. This difference is not just mathematical. It's not just about having more money to invest. The real change happens in your brain. When you have no savings, your brain operates in survival mode. Every financial decision passes through a filter of fear and scarcity. Because you can't be selective, you accept the first job offer that comes along, even if it's bad. You stay in environments you hate because leaving feels too risky. You say yes to things you don't want because you need the money. This isn't purely about practicality, my friends. When in survival mode, your brain cannot truly think about growth and opportunities. It's like trying to plan a vacation while your house is on fire. Your entire mental capacity is locked onto short-term survival. But when you cross the $20,000 threshold, something extraordinary happens. Suddenly, your brain finds space to think differently. Instead of asking, how will I make it to the next paycheck? You ask, how can I grow this money? Instead of being reactive, you become proactive. Vanguard's research shows this, my friends. Even just $2,000 in emergency savings increases your financial well-being by 21%. Just $2,000. But this small buffer takes you out of survival mode. When you raise this to 3 to 6 months of living expenses, which is roughly $20,000, your financial well-being increases by another 13 points. More importantly, your brain now finds the breathing room to think about building wealth rather than just protecting it. Now let's get to the math, my friends, because this is where things get truly exciting. Let's say you save $1,000 every month and earn an 8% return on your investments. Reaching the first $20,000 takes about 19 months. That means a year and a half of discipline, sacrifice, and delayed gratification. It's not easy. Honestly, most people give up somewhere along the way. But now pay attention. Reaching the second $20,000 takes not 19 months, but only 17 months. Why? Because your first $20,000 is now working for you, generating its own return. Same effort, same monthly savings, same risk, but 2 months were cut from the timeline simply because there's more money working in your favor. This is exactly where compound interest starts to kick in, my friends. As you progress toward the third $20,000, the time gets even shorter. Your money takes on a growing share of the heavy lifting while you put in the same effort. When you reach $400,000 in your portfolio, you may be able to generate that next $20,000 in just 5 months. The same amount that took you nearly 2 years at the start now comes automatically thanks to your investments. Every milestone becomes easier than the last. Does this require an exclusive investment world available only to you? No, my friends. Wealthy people may have access to private hedge funds and hidden opportunities, but that's not what creates this $20,000 $20,000 turning point. The secret is much simpler and much more encouraging. It's just basic math working in your favor. If you invest $1,000 and it grows by 10%, you earn $100. When you apply the same 10% to $20,000, you earn $2,000 in the same time period at the same risk level. See, this is why reaching $20,000 feels like a real turning point. Until that point, the returns seem insignificant. A 10% return on $2,000 is $200. Nice, but it doesn't change your life. A 10% return on $20,000 is $2,000. Now we're talking about money that truly matters. If you have $20,000 invested and earn an 8% annual return, that means $1,600 enters your account every year without you lifting a finger. Money you don't have to earn from your job. Money that comes because your existing money is working for you. But my friends, never overlook this. This may be the most important point of this video. When you save $20,000, you have actually accomplished something much greater. You have fundamentally reprogrammed your brain and built the most important financial habit of your life. Think about it. Saving $20,000 from scratch requires serious discipline. You had to track where every penny went. You had to say no to things you wanted. You had to resist the urge to spend your savings on shiny things for months, even years. And most importantly, instead of letting money control you, you proved to yourself that you can control your money. This is not just a financial skill, my friends. It is a life skill. This identity shift affects every financial decision you make from this point forward. And let me tell you, my friends, when you start thinking this way, you realize you don't actually want even half of the things you thought you wanted. There's also another psychological shift at this level that most people don't talk about. You start seeing opportunities instead of only threats. When living paycheck to paycheck, every unexpected expense feels like a disaster. Your car breaks down, your rent goes up. Everything is a crisis that derails you. But when you have $20,000 in the bank, the same events become minor inconveniences at worst. Your car broke down. Annoying, but not a disaster. Your rent went up. Maybe it's time to move somewhere better or increase your income. Even better, you start noticing opportunities that always existed but you couldn't access. In the past, when a friend was starting a venture and looking for investors, you'd say interesting and move on. Now you can actually consider whether to invest $5,000. A rental property needing renovation comes up. Before you'd scroll past it on Zillow with mild envy, now you can actually run the numbers. Your boss mentions a conference that won't be reimbursed but would benefit your career. Before you'd make excuses, now you can evaluate the potential return on investment. There's no cosmic conspiracy behind the saying money attracts money, my friends. Having money gives you options, and options create more opportunities to earn. And when it comes to career, this turning point changes everything there too. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you are essentially trapped in your current job. Your boss may be terrible, the work environment may be toxic, but you can't leave because you need the next paycheck. This puts you in an incredibly weak position. You can't ask for a raise. You can't push back on unreasonable demands. You can't explore new opportunities. But $20,000 changes the entire dynamic, my friends. Suddenly you have what I call exit money. You could quit your job tomorrow and get by for months while finding something better. This isn't recklessness. It's negotiating from a position of strength. And the craziest part is this. Most of the time you don't even need to use that money. Simply having it changes your entire attitude at work. You become more confident, more assertive, more courageous. You show up with a different energy and people notice. Better assignments, more recognition, more money. This is a positive feedback loop and it compounds over time. But my friends, I need to mention a mistake people make very often at this stage. People reach $20,000, feel that psychological shift, and immediately spend it on something foolish. They buy a new car or go on an expensive vacation because they think they've earned it. Don't do this. That $20,000 is not a reward for good behavior, my friends. It is the foundation of your entire financial future. If you are patient and let it grow through compound interest, it is a seed that transforms into wealth lasting generations. Over the course of an average human lifetime, a person spends more on their car than the amount needed to achieve complete financial independence. Think about that, my friends. Including car payments, insurance, maintenance, and fuel, most people spend $600 to $800 per month on transportation. Over 40 years, easily $400,000 or more goes towards simply getting from point A to point B. Meanwhile, they complain that they can't save for retirement. The moment you drive a new car off the lot, it loses 20% of its value. You're not spending money. you're destroying wealth. If you invest the same amount in a diversified portfolio, you watch it multiply, not evaporate. Cars are emotional purchases. I understand that. You want something reliable, stylish, that makes you feel successful, but you need to know what you're sacrificing. That car payment may make you feel rich, but is actually keeping you poor. Having saved $20,000 fundamentally changes how you evaluate major purchases. Instead of, can I afford the monthly payment? You think, what does this truly cost me in terms of opportunity? That $30,000 car is not just $30,000. In 20 years, it could have grown to over $200,000 in your investment account. Suddenly, driving a reliable used car doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It feels like a strategic choice that finances your future freedom. And here's the beautiful irony. While the person driving the flashy new car is stressed about money, the person driving the old Honda is quietly building wealth and sleeping much better at night. This mindset shift reflects in every major decision you make. Housing, education, vacations, hobbies. This is not an obsession that drains all the joy from life. It's making conscious and strategic choices about where your money goes. And let me tell you, my friends, when you start thinking this way, you realize you don't actually want even half of the things you thought you wanted. That bigger apartment would be nice, but is it worth delaying financial independence by 5 years? That expensive hobby is fun, but isn't there a way to get the same satisfaction for much less? This is not being cheap, my friends. This is consciously directing your money toward what truly matters to you. When you have clear financial goals and internalize the power of compound interest, it becomes much easier to distinguish between what you think you want and what you truly want. Look, $20,000 won't make you rich overnight, but it will fundamentally transform the way you think about money and opportunities. This is the difference between surviving and growing, between reacting to life and designing it. Start building this foundation today, my friends, because your future self is counting on the decision you make right now. Believe me, they will thank you for it.